let's get to it, everybody. Here he is, back here on the show from the NFL Network, NFL Media Group, Tom Pelissero. How are you, Tom?
Doing great, Rich. Currently driving. Well, I'm not driving. Mike Garafolo is. We're working our way through a driving rainstorm to meet Ian Rappaport at his golf course in, we call that upstate New York, Mike? Rye, New York, Westchester
Rye.
County.
Ooh, okay.
So we'll see how all this exactly all this shakes out for us. But if we're playing in what we're currently sitting in, I don't have enough layers on to survive.
Well, I don't think the heavy stuff's coming down for a few hours, Tom. So it's impressive. Wow. Now, Garafolo's all in on this, or is he just like driving, somewhat reluctantly, as I would? I don't want to play golf in a rainstorm. I don't want to do that.
Well, we also have a tee time tomorrow, and I think that Mike and I have already made the decision that we will not be showing up for that one. We are going to make it. We're going to suck it up for Ian because he can't come meet us halfway. We've got to go all the way to him, of course. We hope there appears to be a break on the radar about 1:30 p.m. today, and we hope to get this thing in. Okay,
very good, very good. So that's golf and weather together with Tom Pelissero here on the Rich Eisen Show
on the Tuesday.
All right. So Dalvin Cook retweeted your chit chat with Conklin yesterday. Tom, did you see that?
I did not notice that Dalvin had retweeted it, but I'm not surprised. I think everybody is closely monitoring his social media activity at this point. Those two guys are really close, too. Dalvin and Conklin had lockers right next to each other, so they got really close during their days in Minnesota. It would make a lot of sense for the Jets to be in that mix, especially because, at this point, we'll see whether or not Breece Hall is ready for week one. If he is, it's hard to imagine that they're going to cut him loose and carry the ball 25 times. They got a really difficult first 6 games on the schedule. They maybe have a little bit of money to play with here, add one more playmaker to that team. And Dalvin Cook is that rare guy who's a free agent in June. Nothing against DeAndre Hopkins, but he's a free agent because he's been hurt the last couple of years. He served a suspension. He's 32 years old. Dalvin's coming off 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, 4 straight Pro Bowl appearances, and he's 27. This is the rare opportunity for some team to add a bona fide difference maker at this stage in the game, and the Jets are certainly not alone in that regard. There's a bunch of teams that are going to be in on this. It's just a matter of exactly when Dalvin makes his decision and where the fit and the money are going to be right.
Yeah, but so who's got the cap space and the desire to pay Dalvin Cook anything remotely close to what the Vikings decided was too rich for them? Tom?
Cap space is what you make it. Really, there's always, teams generally speaking, unless you're really pressed, you can go to the piggy bank. You got some of those guys who have big base salaries, and to add somebody who's a unique type of player like a Dalvin Cook, you can free up that money. Just do a cap conversion, convert a chunk of base salary to a signing bonus and prorate it. And if you're going to go all in and try to win a Super Bowl right now, this is the type of guy that you would do it for. So just like within the AFC East, I would fairly say you can make a case that the only team in that division that should not be in the Dalvin Cook sweepstakes is the one that employs his brother in Buffalo. The Patriots would make sense. Miami's been debated a lot. That would certainly make sense. And the Jets as well. And those are not the only teams. You still got the Broncos. They're a team that they have the money to get into the neighborhood of what Dalvin Cook's going to command on the market. It's hard to imagine because of where they've invested at that position and elsewhere. And they really did, push to make some other things happen in terms of solidifying that offensive line.
All right.
Tom.
That's what happens when you're driving through a golf community. All right, let's try and get him back on.
Yeah.
Tom, you there?
See.
Okay, we got you. Hold on, we lost
Caps, what you make of it. Isn't that interesting? You there, Tom?
I am here.
Okay, very good.
Really coming down now, Rich.
For a while.
I'll try to talk as clearly and loudly as I can, but I'll give you the weather report out here. We see a westerly wind coming about 35 miles per hour. Large puddles out here on the George Washington Parkway. What are we on? We're on the Deegan. The Deegan Parkway, the van pulled over. That just might be ancillary. Anyway, go on.
Honestly, again, put me on speakerphone for a second. Can you pop me on speaker, Tom?
Yeah, I'll pop you on speaker. Here we go.
Hey,
can you hear anything here, Rich?
Mike,
it's really hitting us hard.
Okay, real quick, Garafolo, you don't want to do this. You don't be driving in the rain and Major Deegan to go play golf with Rappaport when you know there's no golf that's going to happen. You can't be happy about this, Mike. You can't.
We're hearing that there's actually not weather up in Rye, which doesn't make much sense.
It's
ridiculous.
ridiculous.
An absolute monsoon, and we're only 14 miles away at this point. So we're doing this in a blind leap of faith right here. And it's not just raining. It is a monsoon right now.
Come on, Mike.
Probably not be
this doesn't
talking and driving right now.
Exactly. Okay. All right. All right. Let's take it. Take. All right. Be well, Mike. Drive safely. Wow. My gosh. I mean, honestly, maybe this is like Rappaport's plan to be the only information person on NFL Network at this point in time. You know?
Much like George Costanza's in-laws, we are currently driving to a non-existent cabin in the Poconos. On his way to L.A. to have some negotiations.
Trying to get those Cheever letters.
I say, be careful.
Oh,
be careful
my gosh. All right. So what's the timing on all this? Because clearly, as we pointed out, it's golf season right now in the NFL. So what's the timing on all this with Dalvin, do you think, Tom?
Well, and that's what I was saying, I think, when we lost each other there. But, there's 4 weeks until training camp. And I don't know. I mean, I do not believe that that's really a hard deadline in the mind of Dalvin Cook or his agent. They can afford to be patient here. The best money may come when teams realize that maybe their rookies aren't ready or maybe there's an injury that happened. But this is also not a situation where, he doesn't have offers. I mean, Dalvin Cook has multiple offers right now, and he's going to command a significant contract. I don't think he's taking a big discount to go back to Miami or any place else. But he's in control here, again, because he's just that rare player that's transcends the market. Guys like this just don't become available in June. So, if I had to guess, I would say we probably have an answer prior to the start of training camp, but that's no guarantee. He well could take this into August if he wants to and take some mileage off his body.
Well, I mean, maybe I'll push back a little bit here, but you've got your ear to the ground way tighter than I do. Maybe June is the time for guys like this to become available in the running back position from now on. Maybe we're watching a watershed moment. I don't mean to use that word when you're driving in a monsoon, but maybe we are seeing a figurative watershed moment here where Dalvin Cook's available, as Zeke Elliott's been available, as Leonard Fournette, who was on the show when you were sitting in here along with Dalvin Cook, is available. Kareem Hunt is available. Saquon Barkley can't get the figure he wants from the Giants right now. Maybe we're seeing something, Tom, at this position. What do you think?
Well, I mean, there definitely could be some drama, especially when you get to those franchise tag guys. The one that nobody's talking about,
Josh Jacobs,
is Josh Jacobs. The reigning NFL rushing champion. At this point, if there's not a long-term deal, and I believe I mentioned this when I was hosting last week, I don't anticipate Josh Jacobs being there at the start of training camp, and I don't know that he shows up week one. With Saquon Barkley, he's also mused about potentially sitting out. That one's a little harder to believe, in part because there have been negotiations. They've talked about different contract structures. The Giants are motivated to try to get this thing done. But, neither of those guys has signed the franchise tender. Only Tony Pollard has. And so you can't find Saquon or Josh Jacobs for not showing up. And then with, a guy like Dalvin Cook, the one thing that you have to always wonder here is at some point, you've got however many teams are involved on Dalvin Cook, let's call it a half dozen right now. At some point, some of those teams might pivot and say, you know what, we can't afford to wait and miss out on one of these other guys. So maybe we'll sign Kareem Hunt for $3-4 million instead of signing Dalvin for 7 or 8. That's the uncontrollable part of this. But there's also nobody, setting aside the franchise tag guys, there's nobody else who's in the category of Dalvin Cook as a playmaker and a home run hitter. He's got that, as he told us on the show last week, he's got that other shoulder fixed now. He feels like, that really did hamper him the past few seasons. So you might be getting the the best version of Dalvin Cook that we've seen to date.
Tom Pelissero, a couple minutes left with him as Mike Garafolo is driving through the wind shear of the Major Deegan in New York City right now as they go try to meet Ian Rappaport for a golf outing that is absolutely going to get rained out right here on the Rich Eisen Show.
It is lightening up.
Hey,
it is lightening up here, Rich.
Look at us.
We seem to have crossed the Rubicon back there. We still got a drizzle. Mike says when we got on the hutch, that's really where it turned.
That's
so,
famous.
We still got 18 minutes, 10 miles to go. I think we've got a shot here.
The famous low front of the hutch on New York City right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, your tweet about Brock Purdy yesterday going to throw in Florida under the watchful eye of coaches and doctors. Is he going to start week one? Is that really possible for Brock Purdy and the Niners as we're standing here talking or sitting here talking on the final Monday of June?
Everything is trending right now, Rich, toward Brock Purdy being ready for the regular season. And the question is just going to become how comfortable are the 49ers with putting him out there. And that's going to depend in part on how he looks through the course of training camp and how much he can handle. But he started throwing roughly a month ago, and he's been ramping it up since. He just got out to Jacksonville to work with Will Hewlett and Tom Gormley yesterday. And those guys, they worked with Brock before the draft. They ran Anthony Richardson's pre-draft prep this year. It's not just about continuing his rehab, but also working on his mechanics as he moves forward here. You wouldn't be doing that. You wouldn't be putting a 2-week throwing program in late June and early July if you didn't feel really good about the direction that things are going. And Kyle Shanahan, said recently, the last time he was asked about it, that yes, he believes right now there's optimism that Brock Purdy is going to be ready to go. And I think that, sometimes I get even lost on this just because come playoff time and down the stretch of the season, I'm underwater with coaching searches and, eventually the Senior Bowl and other things. Like, you go back, you look what Brock Purdy did last year. The numbers are just, it's unbelievable. I want to say he had 16 touchdown passes, only 4 picks. He was 7-0 until he hurt the elbow in the NFC Championship game. He played at a really, really high level on a 49ers team that doesn't entirely have to rely upon the quarterback to carry them. As Kyle Shanahan said recently, talking about the quarterback room with Sam Darnold and Trey Lance, they like all those guys, but there's one guy who they know can do it, and that's Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, who made himself very relevant by playing down the stretch after the injuries last season, performing at a really high level and putting himself in a position where if he's healthy and if the 49ers are comfortable from a medical perspective, I absolutely expect him to be the week 1 starter.
All right. Last one for you. And since it's drizzling now, I'll throw this one out to Garafolo. So pop me on speakerphone.
All right,
once again, here we go. Very good. Again, Tom Pelissero. All right. Mike Garafolo driving. And in the passenger seat, Tom Pelissero. I'll start with you, Mike. Talking to all of your sources and all your people, which is the one team that you're hearing folks saying look out for that nobody's talking about? Which one keeps getting mentioned to you, or some of your sources are like, tell me about that team because I'm concerned about them, or they're trying to mine you for information to see if this team is in fact for real? You got one for me, both of you?
A lot of folks are telling me and saying you guys are not showing enough respect to the Green Bay Packers, right? Because we have our doubts as to whether you can move on from a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback. So that is one team that I have been told, expect them to be competitive. This notion that they're just going to fall off a cliff, especially with Matt LaFleur, who's an excellent head coach. That's the one that I've been coached up to keep talking about and say, hey, you'll look smart once the quarterback plays well. Over in the AFC, now this team is being talked about, but so many people are impressed with Mike McDaniel and what the Dolphins are doing and the talent that they have on the roster that, and I know we're focused on the Jets so much and certainly the Buffalo Bills. So I guess you could say we're not talking enough about the Dolphins, but they get enough run as well. So if you're talking about different calibers or different levels, like I don't know that we're looking at Green Bay as a Super Bowl candidate, but that's the team that maybe could thrust into playoff contention. I'm putting the Dolphins in that, playoff possible team who could thrust themselves even higher into that Super Bowl caliber conversation.
And the part about the Packers is because Jordan Love, there's a lot of good conversation coming out of that camp that they really like what they're seeing, that we might see a seamless transition when it comes to that position.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and I think I know a lot of people are impressed with what they saw from him last year. He was a different quarterback when he came into that Philadelphia game, the way that he was kind of able to see things and process things a lot quicker than we had seen in the past. And look, I honestly, the external conversation on Love to me has been more impressive from those who are impressed with how far he's come to Green Bay when they've kind of tamped it down. And when I talked to people there, they said, we didn't know for sure we had a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback in Aaron Rodgers when we moved on from Brett Favre. We felt pretty good about it. We also don't know that we have a really good quarterback for sure in Jordan, but we feel really good about it. So that helped them make the move from Aaron to Jordan. So, it's kind of funny how Green Bay wants to lower expectations. Everybody on the outside saying, hey, that guy looked really good, like he's really come a long way the last couple of years just by sitting.
All right. Thank you, Mike Garafolo. Now, Tom, it's your turn. Tom Pelissero, I'll give you the same question. The sources that you speak to telling you this team nobody's talking about enough, or, hey, what do you know about them, because I'm getting a little nervous that they might actually be as good as I'm hearing. What do you got for me on that front?
I mean, this is a team that made the playoffs last year, but I don't think that there's been enough discussion about the L.A. Chargers just because of how talented teams in the league view that roster to be. Now, they are in transition. They brought in Kellen Moore to run the offense. We know the numbers that Kellen Moore's offenses in Dallas have put up. And I know that, there's this hyper focus on what happened in the playoff game last year against Jack second half when they let the lead slip away here. But, that kind of has overshadowed the fact that, in my opinion, Brandon Staley was a Coach of the Year candidate a year ago. I mean, you look at the games that they won, and yes, they've got Justin Herbert, who's a really bright young quarterback, but they did it with, their top three receivers were almost never all healthy at the same time. You had the left tackle, Rashawn Slater, who's one of the best young offensive linemen in the game, missed almost the entire season. J.C. Jackson, who they gave a boatload of money to in free agency, basically missed the entire season. Derwin James was beat up. Joey Bosa missed a whole bunch of time. Without some of their best players, I mean, just think of that list. You're almost getting a bunch of extra free agents or draft picks back on a team that somehow still last year won 10 games, and now brings on an offensive coordinator who's really got a strong track record within the NFL. They still got to get through the Chiefs. As Brandon Staley pointed out when I had him on your show last week, they've played the Chiefs tough. I mean, if you look at their history against them since Staley's been there over 2 seasons, they've given Kansas City some really good games here. So does that mean that they can potentially take them down in the AFC West? Can they push for the AFC Conference Championship? That all remains to be seen, just because, the Chiefs, like Patrick Mahomes there, deserve to be the Super Bowl favorite pretty much every season from now until his 40th birthday. But if you just look at what they've got on paper, and I didn't even mention the draft where they, added to that basketball room they got in the wide receiver room, it's a really impressive group, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if Chargers-Chiefs continues to be one of the epic budding rivalries in the NFL.
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. Yeah, Chiefs-Chargers first game is Week 7 when the Chargers are at Kansas City. All right, thanks. Tell Mike thanks for driving and talking and getting you to this point safely. Who's the fourth? Do we know who the fourth is for the round with Ian Rappaport and you two guys? Who's the fourth?
I don't know that Ian has any other friends, so I'm guessing we're just a threesome today.
Wow.
But I should say the rain now, we are down to just a trickle.
Okay.
I think we are escaping it. So,
all right.
So appreciate you making this drive a little more interesting.
Okay,
Rich,
good.
what's up to the boys in the studio?
Hey,
Tommy.
What up, bro?
Miss you guys already, and hopefully I'm back out there soon.
We'll see you soon. Thanks for the time. Thanks. Thank Mike for me too. That's Tom Pelissero sitting shotgun. Mike Garafolo driving on their way to meet Ian Rappaport for golf amidst a rainy New York day right here on the Rich Eisen Show. That went well.
Nice.
Because Tom told me last night I think he's going to be on the putting green. I had no idea that they pushed the tee time.
Glad everyone made it safely.
Boy, white knuckling through the rain on the Major Deegan. That is dicey territory.
No.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.